Premier, first of all, you've been in the office over a year now, and when we spoke this time last year, you're really just getting settled in. How does it feel now?
Look, it's been an incredible year. It's been a year of a few challenges, not to say the least, but enjoying it very much, and we have a lot more work to do.
What was the highlight of the past year?
Perhaps actually going to my first premiers meetings in British Columbia was a great experience to be around the table with the rest of the premiers from across Canada. But I've had opportunities to meet the Prince and Princess as an example, and just to go across the province and meet many New Brunswickers. So there have been many good times, some challenging times as well. If we think back to a year ago right now, it was just after the major floods in the province and what was taking place there. It was just after actually having to close 2 schools because of safety concerns. So every day it's a new experience.
The coming year looks like it's going to be a real challenge as well. We still have a lot of volatility in the markets. The economy is sputtering along, better than the U.S., but still sputtering along, and obviously creating real challenges for New Brunswick.
Absolutely, and the next year is going to be a year of incredible change. We've, as a government, said we've got to get our fiscal house in order. The last 4 years of the previous government, worst record in Canada when it comes to deficits and debt, second worst record when it came to spending, and that's left an incredible hole. And we've been doing a lot of work in the past number of months to prepare us for a multi-year budget that is going to come forward in March. We're also going to be bringing forward, as an example, an accountability program which has not been in existence in government before in New Brunswick. After Christmas as well, I'm very pleased to say we've started a lot of work on building our economy. There's going to be a lot of work coming forward with our sector strategy. Which sectors of our economy do we feel we need to invest the most energy, time, and money into? And also we'll be bringing forward an innovation strategy. And this, I believe, will help us to weather the storm that we see, the uncertainty, but to build New Brunswick for the long term, very importantly as well.
Taxpayers Federation is suggesting that you're playing to the corporations. They're calling it corporate welfare at the expense of the average New Brunswicker. They're also suggesting that you cannot avoid raising taxes in the coming year. How do you respond to that?
Well, the first question on corporate welfare, couldn't disagree anymore. We have, in a very transparent way, changed very significantly how companies and organizations look for investments by the province. That is tightened very significantly, has been made more transparent. One of my comments as well, and I know the question has been raised about the biomass strategy with MB Power and the impacts for heavy industry. We only have to look to the province right next door to us, which is Nova Scotia, to the impact when 2 mills closed on and what that meant for everyday Nova Scotians and their rates. They've had to raise their rates by close to 10% when you look at the surcharges. That was because the heavy users went out of business, and that was what the impact was. We need to ensure that our heavy industry is strong for New Brunswick. MB Power, we have said to MB Power, you need to become a leaner company. The savings from that, we can help reinvest in this biomass strategy, which is no different than the wind energy purchases that are being made in our province. And at the same time, MB Power will still be profitable, and we only have to look at the results that they've had over the last year. So this is a sound business investment for MB Power. It's a sound investment for New Brunswickers as well, because their rates are going to remain stable for the long term.
Can you avoid any tax increases next year?
What we've said on HST and on tolls, we did not run on a mandate to increase either. There's something called the Taxpayer Protection Act that provides protection for taxpayers. And as a government, the only way that we could increase HST or tolls would be to go to a referendum. And I'm not, it's not, in my desire to look at going to a referendum. What we do need to do and what we're fully focused on is getting our own fiscal house in order, getting the spending side in order, and that's what we're doing now. That's what we'll be doing to come forward in the new year with our multi-year budget, which will be presented. That's where we need to provide confidence to New Brunswickers. At the end of the day, if you can't make things meet, those will have to make decisions at that time. But referendums are not on my agenda.
But is it possible we could see consumption taxes increase on, say, alcohol, tobacco, maybe even fuel tax increases as well?
Last year, we made decisions on a number of things. We stopped further decreases on income taxes for highest income earner New Brunswickers. We also made decisions to increase diesel and gas taxes, tobacco and alcohol. Those are decisions that we could take. Again, there has to be a balance because it can have a reverse impact ultimately on the economy as well. But again, like I said before, my priority is to focus on getting our fiscal house in order, reducing our spending, focusing on core services. Those will be decisions we'll take with our next budget. My preference is not to raise taxes, but again, we'll have to look at what our overall package is.
Do you feel like the whole issue of shale gas exploration is becoming your NB power?
I know it's a difficult issue for people. Would I say that it's the same thing as the MB Power fiasco? Absolutely not. We ran on a mandate that, as part of our last campaign commitments, that we would seek the development in a responsible way of the natural gas sector in New Brunswick. That was very clear in our commitments to the people where we stand. Is it something that is very important to New Brunswickers, and are we hearing that? Absolutely. Do we need to ensure that we can develop the sector in a responsible, safe way, ensuring that landowners and communities feel safe? Absolutely, and that's why this is not a sprint. It's a marathon. That's why we're only in the exploration stage. We don't even know if the sector, if it is a sector right now, if it is an opportunity to develop it more fully. That's what we're trying to find out. And at the same time, that's why we're so intent on looking at what is going on around us in other jurisdictions and making sure that we have a very strong regulatory system in place, stronger than what we have now, making the necessary changes so that people can feel protected, that they can feel safe, and that companies can have the clarity to be able to look for opportunities as well.
You talk about doing it in a safe manner, and yet you have companies who have violated existing regulations. So how do you ensure New Brunswickers that what you do in the future will have teeth?
My first comment is, number one, we have, because of the way the system is set up, they violated it, and they've been caught. So that's the first thing. But we know that the current regulations aren't either clear enough or strong enough. So that's why we have the responsibility to bring forward change. And in the next year, you're going to see change coming forward, change that will provide a lot more clarity for companies, for communities, for landowners, and that will be a lot stronger as well. And along with strong regulations, we need to have adequate monitoring. We need to have adequate enforcement as well. It's got to take, it's a three-legged stool. And I believe as well we need to have good companies that are in New Brunswick exploring and looking to develop, and that's the other part of it that's important as well.
Do you think you might be pinning too much hope on it, especially with the depressed prices of natural gas at the moment?
Look, one of the reasons that we've just made significant changes in distribution of natural gas is because it is such a tremendous opportunity. If we look in New Brunswick up to this point in time, there's been only a very small part of our province that's really been able to access natural gas, and in the future, we need all of New Brunswick to be able to take that opportunity. And you know, the depressed prices for natural gas, it's actually recognized globally in other parts of the world that this is an incredible opportunity for Eastern North America, whether you live on the American side or the Canadian side, and that it will change our economies for the long term in a good way. So, for instance, you know, our companies in New Brunswick, just the other day, I was at Dairytown, which is near Sussex. I always assumed that they had access to natural gas, but they haven't had, and they've had to use propane. Well, they'll save somewhere around $500,000 a year on their bottom line if they're able to access natural gas. Our companies in New Brunswick have not had the same competitive advantage as the rest of Canada, as the rest of North America. Our homeowners haven't had the same competitive advantage. So we believe that it can help drive our economy in the future, and low price natural gas is a great way to help develop our economy.
Are you any closer to getting the whole issue around LaPro resolved?
Our number one priority continues to be seeing it up and operational in the fall of 2012. So my understanding is they're currently on their latest time schedule. There still are some critical points between now and spring, so that's our number one priority. Certainly we have reached out to the federal government to say we believe that the federal government has a responsibility to help make this whole, and we continue to do that work. But right now, the first priority is to get LaPro up and running again.
Are you prepared to take the federal government to court over the issue?
We've said from square one, we'll do whatever is necessary with the LaPro issue. At this point in time, we believe the right place is to be doing the work that's needed to get it operational, and the contacts that we've had now with the federal government will make whatever decisions we have to on behalf of New Brunswickers as we go forward.